Please welcome Executive Director of Consumers Research, Will Hild.
Well, hello, my name is Will Hild, and I'm the Executive Director of Consumers Research. We're actually the nation's oldest consumer protection organization. We have a 90-plus year history of doing two things that are core to our mission. One is educating consumers on issues that are important to them. And two, amplifying their voice in the marketplace. And last year we launched something called the Consumers First Initiative because we were sick and tired. We were sick and tired of seeing companies go woke, cozy up to woke politicians and woke activists to distract from misdeeds overseas, like the use of forced labor, and mistreatments of their customers, like American Airlines, for example. Last year, you may recall, woke capitalism sort of reached a fever pitch. There was election integrity legislation moving through Georgia and Texas. Corporations all around the country felt it was their time to weigh in, condescend, to preach to the American consumer about the way their lives should be run. But these companies all had something eerily similar. They all had skeletons in their closet they were trying to hide. Our first three targets, two of them, Nike and Coca-Cola. At the same time that they were weighing in on election integrity legislation in Georgia. Election integrity legislation they knew nothing about, got the facts wrong, had no expertise in. At the exact same time, they were quietly lobbying legislators on Capitol Hill to have their products exempted from a ban that was moving through Congress on products made from forced labor being introduced to our market. American Airlines, a company fresh off record bailouts, north of $5 billion, funded by taxpayers like you. Their CEO, Doug Parker, had just gotten an 8-figure paycheck, courtesy of your taxes, starts weighing in on Texas legislation. So those are the first three. Then we went after Major League Baseball, an organization that exists solely because it is exempted from standard antitrust law for the support of sports. And Ticketmaster, a company fresh off paying record fines to avoid felony charges of hacking into a competitor to make sure that consumers couldn't see lower priced tickets. And then they weigh in on how elections should be run. Then we moved into a company you just heard about. I told Frank in the back, he's stealing my bit. BlackRock and Larry Fink. A company that is the largest investment management company in the United States. They manage over $10 trillion in assets. And they have used their obscurity to get away with dictating to corporate America that they need to become part of the Democratic Party apparatus. Larry Fink has used your money, your investment dollars, state, local, federal pensions, as Frank talked about, here in the United States to push corporate America away from focusing on you, the consumer, providing you goods and services at a reasonable price, free of forced labor, by the way, into adopting Democratic Party progressive politics. That's what he's done here. Overseas, it's a different story. Frank talked to you a little bit about that. We've been educating consumers about that as well. And we ran an advertising campaign on him as well. Let's go ahead and cue that up.
He calls democracy messy, props up the Chinese Communist Party, praises Xi and his regime, known for violent oppression, invests in Chinese military companies. A defector? No. It's BlackRock CEO Larry Fink, the CEO of a major American company who's gone all in on China. Can he be more anti-American? Larry Fink, BlackRock, taking your money, betting on China.
That was part of a multi-million-dollar advertising campaign to educate consumers around how their dollars are being used against their interests here in the United States. And as you heard, he's using them against our interests in China as well. That brings me to our most recent company, State Farm. A whistleblower several months ago came to us with some of the most shocking materials I've ever seen. And you all know it now. But at the time, I was provided an email from State Farm's outreach coordinators that asked agents of that company to purchase 3 books from something called the Gender Cool Project and donate them to a local library, community center, or school. These books, let me just read you the titles. A Kid's Guide to Being Transgender. A Kid's Guide to Being Non-Binary. Explicitly on the books, they are made for kids as young as 5. State Farm felt it was their duty, their privilege, to target kindergartners for conversations around transgender and training propaganda without their parents' knowledge. So we launched an advertising campaign against them. I think we have the ad ready.
State Farm tells us they're a good neighbor. But would a good neighbor target 5-year-olds for conversations about sexual identity? That's what State Farm's doing, asking employees to donate guides to being transgender to public schools. Books aimed at making kindergartners question their identity. It's textbook indoctrination. These books don't belong in elementary schools, and State Farm shouldn't be putting them there. Like a creepy neighbor, State Farm is there.
So let me tell you the story of how State Farm responded. The first thing that happened is the journalists reached out for State Farm for a comment, and they denied that it happened completely. When we provided them with photographic evidence of schools receiving the books and thanking State Farm by name, they said that they would have to get back to the journalists, but this must have been some sort of mistake. An email later leaked. So we put this out on a tweet thread at about 10 a.m. on Monday. An email later leaked that had gone out internally at about 2 p.m. Apologized, said that this was all a mistake, that they should have never targeted kids to send these books to schools. But they still thought it was important to push inclusivity, is the way they framed it, to kids. A day later, after hearing from more and more aggravated customers and State Farm agents, they sent out a voicemail to all their agents claiming that they had ceased all partnership with Gender Cool, but they remained committed to pushing inclusivity and diversity, which I guess to them means targeting kindergartners for conversations about sexual identity. So, all that to say, I should note one interesting thing came out of it. Red State reported from internal sources at headquarters that just in one day, headquarters had fielded calls from over 2,000 angry State Farm agents who themselves said they were getting hundreds of angry calls from customers. And to State Farm CEO Michael Tipsord, we have a phrase to describe that where I'm from. It's called a good start. We're going to be going after State Farm because they refuse to clean up their mess. Despite saying that they will no longer work with Gender Cool, they refuse to come clean about how many books were donated. They refuse to hire an external party to audit all of their programs targeting children. And I should note here that according to corporate, their excuse was that top executives didn't know. So we think they ought to run an audit of every program that targets children. They need to figure out every place where these books were donated and try and retrieve them, get them out of the hands of 5-year-olds. And they need to make both the audit and the list public so that parents can know whether their kids were given these materials courtesy of State Farm. And until they do that, we are not giving up. All that to say, all the history of the Consumers First Initiative, I have a simple message to you, fair audience. The story here isn't consumers research, and it's certainly not Will Hild. The story here is the power of the people in this room when they stand up and demand that corporate America focus on their customers, not woke politicians and woke activists. We are not done. We are not done with BlackRock. We are not done with State Farm. And if you will stick with us, we will stick it to them. Thank you.